Welcome to FACE Masterclass Series. So glad to have you here. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to get in to this wonderful workshop. My name is Tiffany Callender, and I am the CEO of the Federation of African Canadian Economics, and I'm very excited to have you join us on our last session. I'm not excited that it's the last session, but I'm excited that we're here, that we were able to have a masterclass series with Deloitte. This has been a fantastic opportunity for FACE and for you. The idea behind the Federation of African Canadian Economics is not just to provide loans, it's to provide holistic support to entrepreneurs. And that includes information, that includes knowledge, that includes everything that helps you to be a stronger business owner, entrepreneur, or even if you're on the journey of trying to decide whether you're going to take the leap. This is why these types of workshops are very important. So for me, as a CEO of FACE, I'm glad to be able to deliver to you via a wonderful engagement and partnership with Deloitte, the last masterclass series. It has been a phenomenal opportunity for us to talk about the things that you want to know. And I call that the business of being in business. It's very important to be able to have access to experts who can bring to you in a palatable, realistic, concrete way the things that you need to know that'll help you go forward and run your business so that we can celebrate it at FACE at some point or another. So I would like to pass the ball to our host for today's masterclass series, one of our own at FACE Coalition, our VP of Operations, Christelle Francois, will be guiding you through a seamless masterclass series today. Christelle, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Hi, everyone. My name is Christelle Francois, VP of Operations at FACE. Today with us, we have Maggy Richmond, the Senior Director at Deloitte, who will be providing us with a full-on class on strategy consulting for your business. Maggy, off to you.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Give me one sec. Good. So thank you very much, everyone. I'm really happy myself to be with you, and I wanted to thank you all to give me the opportunity to introduce you to an underestimated subject, strategy. So like Christelle mentioned, my name is Maggy Richmond, and I just want to tell you a bit about myself quickly. But before that, I just want to acknowledge that our offices reside on traditional treaty and unceded territories as part of the Turtle Island, which are still home to many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people. So this is it. And yeah, as it's always fun, you know, to talk about before we get into strategy, but to give you a bit of fun fact about myself, I'm a girl and I love anything that's racing, that has a motor, that's me. And beside, I just want to let you know as well that as an entrepreneur, I own my own business, and I was probably one of the first what I call myself, Afro-Latina to become Google partner as a small, medium-sized business. So I still believe that it's important to know strategy, and this is the reason today I'm here to share this with you. So today, first, we will cover the basis of strategy, which will include first, what is strategy, the strategy checklist, the key concept for strategy formulation, strategy statement, the level of strategy, and the strategy implementation process. And then we will be looking at various tools for external and internal analysis, such as the SWOT analysis, the PESTEL framework, and many more. Next, we'll have a bit, I wish it could have been a bit more interactive, but we'll get the time to think and create a strategy statement for your own organization. So you'll have the template, and we'll allocate some time for Q&A. So let's start by looking at the basis of strategy. You may be thinking, what is strategy exactly? A strategy is a plan to achieve one or more long-term goals. It defines and expresses the purpose of an organization through its mission, vision, value, and objective. This is what I like to call the MVV, and that's really important. And I'm going to give you a bit of example of what is a mission, what is a vision, and what is the value, and finish with how an objective should be SMART, and I'll tell you what is SMART. So basically, a mission is what we call the raison d'être. of your entrepreneurial project. This is what we call the why of your project. And there's also like a great author that I would encourage you to actually watch and see for the purpose of your business called Simon Sinek. And you could actually like, that will help you also achieve certain things for strategy to understand what is the why. So in order to define the mission of your company, you have to know like what problem have you identified with your potential customer? 2, how would you like to respond to them? And is the solution you want to bring to this problem or need is the best way to respond to it? So example of mission statement that's quite descriptive. Let's start, with LinkedIn. Connect the world of professionals to make them more productive and efficient. Deloitte's mission. Our mission is to help our clients and our people excel. We're one of the world's leading business advisory organizations. Our size, strength, and resources will help us carry out our mission now and in the future. So this is like the mission. The mission, always remember, it's like the why of your project. Why do you do it? Then let's go on number 2, vision. The company's vision is called for what I say, it's more long-term projection. You can always shift your vision, but you have to make sure that you do define a corporate vision, and you have to take into account what's going on around the world and society. It has to match with the time. What is your sector activity? What role will your company will play in that landfill? What is the world looking like right now? How can I put this into play? So for example, if I take again LinkedIn's vision, creating an economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce, where Deloitte's vision is we totally aspire to excellence. So we aspire to be the standard of excellence, the first choice of the most sought after clients and talent. So this is like their vision. And thirdly, values. Value are a set of common belief. This is truly developed. It's one of the most key important, it's the heart of your company. That means like this is where everything beats. So in order to determine the value of your future company or your actual company, you will have to appeal to the mission and the vision, but you will have to make sure that people does understand what does create much more purpose for you. So example for Deloitte's value is mostly integrity, the power of cultural diversity, mutual commitment, and exceptional value for market and customer. And lastly, but not least, you must have a goal. You must have some type of objective. What are you planning to do? And remember, it must be smart. And what do we mean by smart? That means your objective must be specific and cater to your own business. It must be measurable. It must be something that you put some thought through, that you want, that it could convey a message, but you have to be able to measure it. It has to be something that you must achieve or it's attainable, because this way, like your objective, like I want to make that many sales per year. Okay, is it achievable? Is it realistic? So that's one of the things that you want to make sure that your objective goes to. Result. It has to give some type of result. An objective without a result is like steering a boat without going to any direction. So you have to know what is there for you, and obviously time bound. You have to be committed to put it in a certain time. So this propels your business and gives it a sort of momentum. So this is what we're talking when we have a strategy. When we call about the MVV and SMART objective, this is part of the strategy. So after that, we have what I call the strategy checklist. It's question that it's fundamental to strategy, actually. So one of the assessment of an organization strategy that can benefit from asking this question is to make sure that, there's 3 key categories: the strategic position, strategic choice, and strategic action. So within the strategic position category, you have to ask yourself the following question: what is the main objective of your business, of your organization? What are the macro environment opportunity and threats? And this will see it more with, like Bestel. How can the organization manage its industry forces? We'll see this probably a bit with Porter. How are stakeholders aligned to their organizational purpose? What resource and capabilities support the strategy? It's not always about financial, and this is what's important to know. It's like, what human resources do we have? What financial resource do we have? What are the other capabilities that we can have to support the strategy? And how does culture fit in all of this? So this is like important to start thinking about the position and what type of culture do we have? Do we have a culture that's more open to, like flexibility, or a more rigorous culture because we're in an industry that has a lot of laws? So this is something that you have to make sure when you start thinking about the strategic position. 2, strategic choices. How should business unit compete? Which business do you want to include in your portfolio? Where should and why should you compete internationally? Are you ready? Is your organization innovating appropriately? Are you doing like the right research and development? Should the organization buy other companies? Or sometimes you cannot buy because you just start, but maybe is it okay to start having a joint ventures, or having some type of ally, or work, or you want to work by yourself? Last but not least, you have the strategy in action. Are strategies suitable, acceptable, and feasible? This is something that, like, you might have the greatest strategy, but a strategy is not one size fits all. So it has to be suitable to you, it has to be acceptable, and must be feasible, doable. Same thing as an objective, like I mentioned before, SMART. What kind of strategy making process is needed? Do you need to have some processes put in place? What's really important for you? What are the required organization structures and system that you want to put? How should the organization manage necessary change? How would you do it? And who should do that? Is it always you? Could you have someone else do what in the strategy process? So you can also bounce back ideas with others in order to know, like, what type of process you want to put, what type of investors would you like to have in your business? Those are the things that you have to start thinking about. So next, we'll cover some key concepts for strategy formulation. So there are 3 concepts which can help businesses formulating their strategy and gain an advantage in the market. This advantage could be in terms of funding, grants, higher sales volume, and even broader market. This especially applies to smaller businesses as they need to differentiate themselves from the competition. So the first key concept in organization positioning in the market is the first block that you see: foundation for marketing, process on how to communicate the organization. Create a social media presence and a brand image. I cannot emphasize this a lot. And how would you do it? It takes time. You have to invest. Position in company according to competition. So within this branch, the first one I'd see, an organization should analyze their foundation for marketing and their ways of communicating their unique attributes to the target customers. So this is really really important to remember. And how would you do it? So what's your unique selling proposition? How would you do your pitch? If you have 45 seconds in an elevator, how are you going to communicate your unique attributes? So that's the positioning. 2, differentiation. An organization should be able to see where and how it can add value and develop a uniqueness across industries. Differentiation means that it will also enable organization for an increase in customer loyalty and overall profit. So finally, it's really important to stand out in terms of price or products or services, personalize your service, variety. Do you have a breadth and depth, of your product if you're selling, some goods, and obviously customer service to gain advantage over other organization. And 3, strong network. This is something that sounds familiar to all of you, but that you should probably consider and make sure that you take advantage of building it. So First of all, it allows you for knowledge sharing. It will help you identify new business trend and best practice. Two, it will also give you more opportunities on the long run, and it would also enable you to build connection, not only through social media, but also like physically. And strong network can also be built by going to networking event. And this is something that you should always focus. And when you have a strategy and a strong network, always make sure that you go back to the people that you say that you would. So this is one thing in your strategy that people would remember you for. So if you want to build connection, if you say something, then you have to do it. So let's go to the next one. Strategy statement should have three main theme. One, objective. Two, scope. And three, advantages and capabilities. So let's first look at an organization objective. So an organization must define its purpose through a mission statement that I'll show you at the end, like a template. Two, a vision statement, and three, corporate values and objective. So today we talk a lot about sustainability. So your values can be different thing, but you have to have a corporate statement, what you want to do, why do you want to do it, and why type of reach you want to do, which is your objective. Secondly, scope. It is important to have a well-defined scope. What exactly is a scope? It is a landscape. It's in which the company will actually operate. It should include who's your target client. And when we talk about target client, you could actually create a persona of your client. Who's this person, between what age, give her a name, or give it a name, I should say. So that's, things that you have to consider. Why do you want to operate, and why do you want to operate over there? Because it's close to your home, or you have this vision in the long term that you want to go internationally. And what not least is the extent of your internal activities. So that's, you should consider, how many people would you hire? So sometimes you need those internal activities to understand, like how much resources you're going to need. What type of people do you need to hire? What are the processes that you will put in place? This goes also with your internal activities. What type of marketing you're going to do, etc. And finally, it is important to identify what are the main advantages and capabilities of your organization. And this will eventually determine what company can do differently or better than the competition to achieve their objective. This is the main three themes that you have to start thinking. In our organization, strategy can exist at three main levels. So this pyramid shows a visual aspect of the different levels. The first one at the base lies the functional strategy. Then the middle is the business, is really like where is the core? It's like, where do you operate, which is called the business level strategy. And lastly, at the top is the corporate level strategy. And I want to emphasize, not because you're like a small business that you don't have a corporate strategy. It's not big businesses that have a corporate level strategy. So let's start. At the tip of the pyramid lies the corporate level strategy. And this level is concerned with the overall scope of an organization and how value is added to other business units. So this strategy will include the diversity of your product and service, as well as the allocation of how you want to put the resources between the different elements of the organization. And lastly, don't forget your geographic. So this is where, you have to make sure that the strategy includes a geographical scope. And being clear about corporate level strategy is really crucial for success. Two, the business level strategy, the one that I just mentioned prior, is in the middle of the pyramid. It's how business seek to compete. This is where you're going to be competing successfully in the market. And this level of strategy concern your R&D, everything that's related to innovation. And innovation, people like always feel that it has to be like some kind of technology. No, innovation in your product. If you're actually creating handmade product, what type of innovation are you going to put in your product? What type of new way of thinking that you've been doing? So this level of strategy concern issues such as, like I said, innovation and how you're going to like add value to service and how you're going to respond to your competition. And the last one, the base, the root, functional strategy, they're much more concerned on how the components of organization will deliver effectively the corporate and the business strategy in terms of three things. I call it like my people. If I was, because since I'm in technology, I always call it the PPT, process, people, and technology. But basically what we say is like resources, process, and people. So for example, functional strategies should be totally specific to different operational units in the organization, like marketing and human resources. They're two different things. So marketing is not the same as HR. So you have to treat it as such. And functional decisions are the base for business strategy, are totally vital to the successful strategy implementation. So the need to link business, functional level, underline the importance of an integration in strategy. Every level needs to be aligned with the other one. So this is what you need to remember on this one. So this diagram presented on the last slide summarizes the strategy implementation process. So the corporate level, like I mentioned, like is developing the mission, vision, and objective. This is key to implement a successful strategy. And then we have the microenvironment and then competitive analysis. This is where, organizations should analyze the micro, and we'll see it, opportunity and threats in their competitive advantage. So this is where, like you see it. 3, organizational analysis. This is the process in which organization understand their 1, performance, 2, they can identify problem, 3, find opportunities. And of course, you can develop a plan of action to improve your overall performance. So, and 4, like I said, strategy formulation, which we talked, as mentioned previously, is when an organization positions itself in the market, differentiate itself from other competition. How you're going to do it is by building a strong network, or having, if we're talking in the social media world, having like people that will vouch for you. And 5th, but not least, if you want everything to stick together, you have to follow up as strategy implementation. This is where organizations take action to implement their strategy plan. There was a saying that if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. This is strategy. That means like, it's not because, we're not thinking that every component is not important. It's just that if you don't plan right, you will lose money. You would, waste time. You would waste energy. You will not put efficiently the right resources when it's needed. So if we go now, and I totally forgot to mention that the last one, evaluation and control. So this one is a very important step, as it let organization reevaluate priorities and course correct based on previous success and failure. So this is like all your process that you need to remember from 1 to 6, and this like summarize, if I go back quickly, all of this. So once you have this level of strategy, then you need to make sure it follows implementation wheel, which I call it from 1 to 6. How are you going to make sure everything sticks is by evaluation and then controlling it. And if you don't do that, then you have a hard time knowing where to go for your strategy. So number 1 and number 6 are really, everything else is important, but those 1 and 6 is really where everything is important. This is like your roadmap to a strategy success. So tools for external and internal analysis that we'll talk about. Then obviously we have layers we talked before about the microenvironment. We have layers of the business environment. So the business world is, we can summarize in 4 different environments or layers. The microenvironment consists of a broad environmental factor that impact many organizations. For example, climate change today, economic growth rate, aging population, and obviously tech revolution. So what we said, technology revolution, that's one. So to use a microenvironment to analyze it, we can actually use a PASTEL framework. So this is the one that we'll talk about after the next slide. So the next layers that make up the microenvironment is the industry or sector. So this layer is composed of different organizations that produce and offer the same products and services. And the best tool to analyze this industry is Porter, the 5-force model. Thirdly, the third layer is that specific competition and market surrounding it. So this is like when you must have heard, or many of you must have heard, like SWOT analysis, and I will emphasize, this is the one that I will also submit a template. This is the one that, bankers always ask you, do you know what is the SWOT analysis of your business? So this is the one that's best known and mostly used, but all the rest is great to actually understand them as well. So if we go to the PASTEL, the PASTEL framework evaluates micro environmental factors for non-market aspects. So according to 6 key tasks listed below, you would need to understand how this is, what PASTEL means: the political ground, economic, social, technological, ecological, and legal. So the political aspect of PASTEL does highlight the role of the states and other political factors in the microenvironment, such right now how, COVID-19 has affected us, and how, we could get either new grants, new funds, new law. So this is, you have to consider having new lobbyists, social media. So all this is what we put on the political front. It is also important to consider the role of the media, because that has an impact on how you can reanalyze your business. Next, the microenvironment also depends on the economic health, such as currency exchange rate, interest rate, fluctuation in economy growth around the world. So this has an impact on your business, even on the local front. So business needs to understand how market can totally affect the health of the economy. So as a reason, sometimes, the prices of food might, increase. So anything else in that sort. Thirdly, social element of the microenvironment can impact organization, as both supply and demand are affected by this factor. So it could be the aging demographic or the younger demographic. It could be the wealth distribution, changing cultural attitude. Those things are really important. Improvement in technology such as AI. What is AI? Artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, or even the internet and media can impact organizations. So this is what, it's called the technology, because it's not only your phone, it's more than your phone that can impact your business. And then we have being green is very important today. So businesses must be aware that environmental regulation can impose additional costs, but could also be a source of opportunity. So this is a tricky ground. So it could be a cost, but also it can make you have more businesses. And lastly, the final element is the legal factor. Organization must note the different aspect in labor relation, or labor in general, environmental and customer regulation, taxation. So you must know it's really important to make sure you file your taxes, your business taxes at the end of the year. So those are, mostly important factor. And any reporting requirement, any law regarding, the internet is legal. So analyzing these factors will help identifying key drivers of change, which ultimately helps manager decide on what strategic choice or businesses, like your businesses, you will decide on what strategic choice you would actually do. So now let's go to Porter. So the 5 forces that I mentioned before, model of Porter, helps in analyzing an industry and to identify how it could be attractive. So attractiveness is measured on how easy it is for firm to generate high profit. So in order to analyze this, you have competitive rivalry, which is the extent of rivalry between competitors. This is like in the middle, the circle that you see in the middle. Then you have the threat of entry, and this is something that you have to consider. Is it easy for you to go get, is it easy for you to enter if you want to become a new networking, telenet-working, like a cell phone provider? Is it easy for you to enter that business? So this is what we call like threat of entry. Then we have the threat of substitute. So this is like, how is it easy for you to, like there's the first goods that you could get, but is it easy for you to have a substitute? So that could be another threat for you to analyze. Then the power of buyers. So this also is something that you have to consider. Great example is that, like who has the power to buy cars? Is it more or bargaining power from people, or it's more supplier bargaining power? So this is what you have to consider. What is going on in the market? For example, bargaining power in technology, if I'm referring to myself, they have bargaining power. All those, what we call the Google, Amazon, Microsoft of this world, and Facebook, they have all the bargaining power when you want to actually be in the technological front. So it's more supplier power. So those are the things that you have to consider. And this is how, the 5 force model actually work. So an example, if you're a company selling to an end user market, the buyer would be the consumer market, and the supplier will be the manufacturer or wholesaler that provide the product. So those things you have to consider when you actually use the 5 force model of Porter. It's a great model to understand who has the power. Is it the supplier? Do you have, and this is for you to know how to negotiate. Is it the buyer or the supplier? Do you have threats of entry? Is it going to be more expensive? Do you have a threat of substitute that is it easily replaceable? So the implication of Porter 5 forces, the 5 forces framework provides several useful insight into the forces and actor at work in the industry or market environment of your organization. So this can help you analyze if an industry is a good one to compete, or if to what extent it's going to be like hard for you to defend yourself against strong forces and try to exploit weak ones. So example of that, like if we go like something easy for you in the restaurant industry. So, like it might be saying, people might say it's exaggerated, but what was funny is those tea bubble that came out in the market. So it's always, like find a way to find a force or weak one that you can exploit. So people are still lining up to go get those tea bubble worm located. So this is where, you could, like with 4 to 5 forces, you could answer those questions. Which industry do I want to enter, or where do I want to leave? How I can better manage those 5 forces, and how competitors are affected differently. So this is where, we have the underdog, we have the main one. So people know like there's always replica. Like if we take some industries, so like who's the main leader in your industry, and who's like the challenger, and then who's actually like the underdog. So Porter actually helps you define those 3 realms. Then we have something that it's not known, but it's really like valuable to understand, is the what we call the VRIO analysis. So this one suggests assessing the capabilities and resources of your organization to measure its competitive advantage. So it's V for valuable. Is everything valuable in your business? Everyone, we have the tendency to say yes. But if it is, okay, great. So you can go on the next question, but you have to remember that every organization has strategy to improve either their efficiency or effectiveness by identifying opportunities and threats. If resource fails to be valuable, then it will have a competitive disadvantage. So this is where, you need to analyze, okay, is it valuable, yes or no? Two, our resources should be rare. So R in the VRO is like resources, and they should be rare and be acquired by a single or few organization only. So it makes it rare. Or so this organization will face competitive parity. So this is again where you ask yourself question, yes or no. Another dimension to consider is can you imitate or not? So is it inimitable? Yes or no? So this dimension will lead to temporary competitive advantage, whereas if a company gain resources, it's valuable, it's rare, and it's also inimitable, this will enable the company to gain strong and long-term competitive advantage. Finally, an organization should be able to organize these resources by organizing and coordinating resources in a very effective manner. If it fails to do it, then it will be unused competitive advantage against themselves. So this one is more to understand what's great about your product. Some products are totally imitable, but they were able to make a rare concept, such as Apple. The next slide that I have is SWOT. So strengths are characteristics of a business which give an advantage over competition. This could be things like company does well, internal resources. Weakness could be things the company is lacking, things the competition could do better. Opportunities are underserved market, few competition, media presence, and threats, changing customers' preference, negative press, new regulation or changing or legal environment, and emerging competition. So this is what we have for a SWOT analysis, and we'll talk about it. This is a very easy tool to use, but at the same time, it's a challenging one to make sure that your business think through this process. Strategic foresight, it's something that you use. And if I ask you the question, how many of you Google yourself every day? And this is what we call strategic foresight. So one of the tools that you could use for strategic foresight is Google Alert, totally free. And another one as well is partly free. And then if you want to have the premium key, it's NetVibes. So what is a strategic foresight? It's a systematic method used by organizations to better prepare for change in the future. This enables organizations to identify potential challenges or opportunity by being resilient. And the strategic foresight can be seen here in this diagram below. So first thing that you do, research. If you use Google Alert, what is the purpose? Why? What do you want to know? Do you want to know who's talking about you? This is something you could do. Gathering information. What's going on in the environment? This goes back to the pastel, to the macro. What's going on about you or the term that you want to use? Create future scenarios. What's your forecasting? What can you see from the market? Visioning is everything about it. Goes back again to your vision and goals, and what is the goal of other competition in your market. Strategy, how you're going to plan it, and finally, take action. How would you implement your strategy? Is the process of turning organization plan and strategy into action? Is that what you want to do? That's important. Now, quickly, your turn. Strategy statement, like I mentioned before, and this is something that you can use easily as an example, so you could start your own. Our mission is to help client and people excel. That's an example. What's yours? So how you could use a whiteboard at your place, or use anything paper, but just make sure you write it on. It's clear, it's in your face. Vision statement: we aspire to be standard of excellence, the first choice of the most sought after client and talent. What's your vision? How are you gonna create it? What do you want to see? How you want to formulate this? Value, integrity, outstanding value to market and client, commitment to each other, strength for cultural diversity. What are your value? What are the value that you want your business to project? And obviously, the last one is objective, purpose. How are you going to make an impact that matter? And this is what they have. And what's your purpose? So sometimes you might have an objective, like I said, it has to be smart. Sometimes you have to have a purpose, and that's where you need to develop this one. And obviously, the one that I just mentioned before, a SWOT analysis. This is mostly used in business plan, and this is what a lot of bankers actually want to see is your SWOT analysis. So this is, how you can actually do it. You write as much as you want, the strength that you feel, the weaknesses that you could see in the industry, what type of opportunities or threats that you might see. And this concludes this last part, and I can't wait to share and hear you about your questions.
Wonderful. First of all, thank you so much, Maggie, for that presentation. It was extremely thorough, informative, and very clear and insightful. So thank you so much for that. I feel that I think all of our attendees are definitely able to benefit and utilize the information that you've shared. So now we will gladly take questions from the audience. So one of the first questions: how would an entrepreneur operate amidst available finances and the available macro opportunities and strength? Is there any limitations to small emerging enterprises? So I think that's maybe more of a question for FACE. So I'm happy to take that on, just more around the different opportunities available through FACE from a lending perspective. So just knowing that at FACE, we do have the two verticals and streams of funding available. We have the microloan, which allows you to take loans up to, that's fully available on our website. And then you also have our macro loans that are also available. So if you decide to, those are really the two loan options available. On the micro side, it's 10 to 25,000, and on the macro side, it's 25 to 250,000. Just to make that very clear. Perfect. So another question specifically for you, Maggie. What are some ways that a business can differentiate themselves in a very saturated and competitive market?
Being authentic, customer service. People not realize customer service for me means it starts with your website. What type of service? It starts with the first strategy. Do you want to be a digital business, or you want to make sure that you have a chat person that's going to answer? It all depends on how you want to be authentic. So it goes back to customer service. If you have someone that will treat you well, you will come back and you will talk to only three. And the same, I remember when people will have bad press with social media, they talk to 7 people, and that was before social media did exist. And when people do want to talk about your business, it's only 3 people that would actually mention, yeah, it's great. Oh, do you know so and so? So basically, in order to differentiate yourself, you have to make sure also, if you have bad comments, you answer them back and you don't sugarcoat. And this is how you're going to differentiate yourself among the competition, because a lot of people they try to ignore, but remember, your ranking is as important.
Well said. Well said. I fully agree with that. Another great question saying, thank you very much. Let me see. Thank you very much for your time in the presentation. As a new entrepreneur or someone who can't avoid a strategy session, who can't afford a strategy session with Deloitte, what would be the top 5 questions you think any entrepreneur should ask himself before starting a business venture?
Why do you want to be in that business? That's number 1. 2, so you said 5. I can go back to the slide, but I feel that I will go much more on my what is your mission? This is is standard, but you don't need those big corporate, like Deloitte and guys to help you out. But you have to know like where do you stand? What's your mission? What's your long-term vision? What's your value? And mostly, I always call this a 5W plus, is who's your target? You cannot pitch to everyone. And this is something like first thing that you need to do. You have to know who's your persona. Christelle, young Black entrepreneur, like this is really important. And this is where people miss the mark. They want to serve all markets. You cannot serve all markets. So those 5 key questions for me is what I call easy, like the 5 W's plus H. How are you going to do it? Why you want to do it? What's going to happen for you to do it? Like those things, like who's your main target market? So I cannot emphasize more on these questions.
Well said. Absolutely. Having a niche market is so critical. Let me just take on additional questions. I want to be sure that we can maximize as much as possible. Another question is, what are your recommendations for entrepreneurs with businesses that are tech oriented, which do not involve hardware, but may be breaking into a new industry, such as virtual or augmented reality service productions, in terms of how to approach business plan and proposals?
Gosh, new technology. I know it's not an easy question, but I'll try to give you like my best answer. And I could always get back because I do understand. I was part of this. And when we talk about augmented reality, I create myself with the help of Google a glass, and man, that's not easy. In order to pitch, you have to have a business plan. You have to make sure that's one of the things they are requesting, and a letter of intent. I know it's not easy, but you have to know who's willing to buy your product or your project for the next 10. And this is how you're going to and this is how people would actually recognize you. And this is what I did. I'm talking from personal. This is what we did. We actually had letter of intent to show, like investors or bankers or even the government when they want to give us like grant in the past, how we can actually do that. So that's one thing that you have. It's not easy, but you have to make sure you develop your market, not only focusing on R&D, but try to find a viable niche for technology. When it's new, that means it's harder to actually stand or understand, and you have to educate. So I cannot emphasize more about education because people don't understand. It's a new jargon, it's a new lingo. So you have to educate people.
Absolutely, well said. And what I can add to that from a lending perspective, when it does come to new businesses, new technology, although you may not have current sales for your business, one of the things that we will look for are what are your projections? Do you have any potential buyers for your business, and letters that demonstrate that you have incoming purchases for your business as well, just to be able to kind of show that feasibility and viability of your business as well. Definitely something to keep in mind when coming to apply for a loan as well. Another question that I'll take is, some people are very good in terms of conceptions and ideas, but it's so difficult to get it started, even when they have the funds to get started. What do you think is responsible for this, and how can this jinx be broken?
I always say practice makes perfect. How many of you, if you would come out of you, for example, I know it's not possible, would tell me in 45 seconds what their business can do? So it's great to be in conception, but you have to be able to communicate how your business is on a pitch. I would not emphasize how important elevator pitch is. I'm more adamant, like I would say, like I'm passionate, as you can see, because a pitch is what is actually a deal breaker. A lot of you, and feel free to pitch it to people and say, how do you think I did? So you know how to improve those elements. So conception ideas is great because we're dreamers. Entrepreneurs are dreamers. They like to take project and they like to make it also happen, but sometimes they're so focused on their personal model that they also forget that they need to develop this business sense, and on the same time they need to pitch. So it's all about finding the happy medium, the right balance, which is not easy. I'm not saying it is. I'm just letting you know that the first thing that you need to know is how you're going to communicate your business. Is it crisp? Is your message understandable? Can people like understand, sorry, your message? That's really important. Pitch, elevator pitch. Sorry, guys, I know it goes back to the basics of selling, but you have to sell me your ideas. You have to sell me your project. And that's the first element of strategy.
Well said. Thank you so much for that. I think you really hit it on the nail with that. So I did receive other questions, people asking for your email address, Maggie. So clearly you can see how engaging you've been in today's session. So feel free to share that in the chat if necessary. For those who came in afterwards, if there are no other questions, at this time, what I'd like to say is if you do have any other additional questions that come through that maybe get sparked after you've kind of marinated on this great session, please contact us at info@facecoalition.com and we will be able to filter those questions to you as well. Please note that these sessions are recorded and will also be available on our YouTube channel, and we will be distributing them through our newsletter as well, so that to keep you aware of these informative sessions. What I love to thank as well, Maggie, again, thank you so much for your time and this great presentation that you've given us today. I think it was really, really beneficial for everyone who was in attendance. And also thank you to Deloitte. Deloitte has been an incredible partner for this masterclass series. We had a chance to talk on financial statements in English and French, forecasting, and all of those key tools and information that is critical for entrepreneurs to understand and to learn so that you can apply this knowledge to your business. At FACE, our mission is really to help build Black generational wealth, and we are proud and committed of the work that we are doing to be able to support entrepreneurs across Canada. Deloitte, you've demonstrated your commitment to support Black entrepreneurs, and we are proud to partner with you guys in this capacity on this initiative. Again, thank you all for your time and joining us in these incredible masterclass series. FACE has more sessions like these that will be available soon, so stay tuned. And thank you so much for your time and joining us. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So yeah, feel free to write. Take care, guys.
Take care. Thank you.